Good morning. I'm sure we had breakfast. I know it is cold, but good morning. Okay, I want us to start this day on a very high note. And it is indeed a pleasure to be here and to see so many parents, and also a lot of my friends and colleagues and people that we have worked with, and also to see that we have students in the room who are ready to learn and get to understand for us as caregivers what it is that we need. As she mentioned, my name is Sylvia Moramo Chabo. I am the founder of Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons, and I'm also a parent. I have 3 boys, and of my 3 boys, 2 of them are on the autism spectrum. And on top of that, I serve at the National Council for Persons with Disability as a board director, and I represent caregivers and persons with neurodevelopmental disabilities. So in light of that, my focus for today will be in light with invisible disabilities, autism, and the neurodiverse community. But we know there is various disabilities, but all of us are in the same boat, right? It is the same storm, but different boats, because we have different challenges. And we, as parents, why we also are glad to be here today, and the fact that at least there is a conference for parents. And I believe it's one of the few firsts that we've had, right? Who has attended an exclusive parent focus conference before? Other than the ones parents we create for ourselves. See? No one. So that means it is indeed something great that is happening. And we're moving forward with all the advocacy that has been going on in the recent past. At least we feel heard a bit. There is improvement in the space of disability, and at least parents are being looked at now. So, like I mentioned, disability space is wide. We have physical disabilities, neurodevelopmental, physical, but there is the one obvious thing that when people hear the word disability, the first thing that comes to your mind is physical, right? So there is already the pre-existing mindset that we have. So, and in moving forward, we always have to look at the past. And the past is what they say advises our future. And for us as caregivers, I have to tell you that the journey has not been easy at all. At all. In everything that you look at, in all solutions that come up, we always have to work through to remind people that we exist. We have to always work through and say our children are also there, that they need to be considered. And we have limitations in environment, in the society, in access, physical barriers and others that are not there, access to services, social integration in the community. And all of this actually for our special children, you find that it makes it harder for them to coexist in our community. And that's why we are here today, because some of our children are nonverbal. That means they cannot tell you exactly what they're going through. For us as caregivers, we have to learn them. We have to understand their special language. We have to create our own internal language and ways of communication so that our children are included, and we try and make the society understand. But the challenge that we also face is, for us, if it's going to school, there is always an extra for our special needs children. I will just not apply and get that spot. I have to do extra, be it in hospital, be it in any activity. Everywhere you go, you have to always have that extra information that follows through for your child to be. All right, we will be aligning. So we want to align the visual plus what is on my screen. Just 1 second for that. So, and the other thing that we always, as parents, face, when you become a parent, when you're pregnant, when you're expecting, all of us have that great expectation of a bundle of joy, right? Is there anyone who expects any less? So what do you do when God decides to give you a special needs child? You know, it's not like a mail. You remember back in the days for post office, at least you had an option of return to sender, right? When the mail does not belong to you. That is exactly how it feels most of the times after delivery. And at that point when you're told that, oh, I'm sorry, but there is something wrong. There is a whole process that sometimes we go through. And the emotions that you face at that moment are unimaginable for us as parents. Most of us, those are the first times we hear some of the diagnoses that we receive. You've never heard of the word autism. You've never heard of what spina bifida is. But that's the point, you're being told that your child has it. And you get into this space of turmoil where there is mixed feelings. There is a lot of feelings, emotions, expectations, heartbrokenness. And we get into denial. There is always this sequel of what we go through that nobody knows unless you walk through it. And remember, at that time, many a times there is no one to hold your hand and actually tell you, by the way, this is how you go about it. So you're on your own, you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to accept. So it also comes to blaming. Why me? What did I do? And this one also, even I will say sometimes our medics support in this, when you're being asked tough questions like, who in your family has this or that, So you start sitting and having conferences with the extended family. Mom, do you know in your line? Daddy, do you know in your line? So you get into this space where you're just trying to get answers. You're trying to get answers and you don't know where to run to. Then you go into Mr. Google. You try and research. And there you actually get into depression because there is all you cannot, you will not, they will never, their lifespan. There is all this information overload that just gets to you. And when people realize that you have a special needs child, what's the next thing we experience? A lot of rejection. You are rejected, you're blamed. The family, most of us are left by our spouses because they say it is not in our family. It is your fault. It is your gene. You're the mother. You're the one who brought this. I did not sign up to this. My question is, as a parent, did I sign up for it? For the parents in the house, is there anyone who signed up and said, God, I want a disabled child? No. So those are the things that come to us, and where this leads us is down the road of depression. And lucky are you if someone pulls you out of there, because you can stay in that state for a very, very long time. Denial and depression and just trying to get you to find your way. And by the time we get out of it, most of the time, sadly, it's a bit too late. Because when we're talking about early intervention, it means we have to act in good time. But we find that we are in this state where we just feel lost, confused. Everyone is looking at you. The highlight is on you. You even forget that you actually have a child that you need to take care of. Because you're looking at this child and all you're seeing is a reminder of everything that everyone is telling you, every finger that is being pointed at you. And it is a long journey towards acceptance. And why I say I put out that quote that we cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. It's because that responsibility that God has bestowed upon you is for you to choose how to go forward. Remember, a child did not ask to come to this world. And at the end of the day, it is you they fully rely on. So it is for us as caregivers to pave the way and the direction that our children will go. And it starts with us. We have to first accept the situation. But which world do you go to when you're going through all of this? That image specifically says exactly how it feels the minute you faced it. And it's like a blindfold. I always say, for me, the time I was told about my child, I had never heard what autism is. I had no idea. I went through the entire process, but then you're being told they will survive. You have to do this. You're hearing things like therapy that you've never had before. I had never heard about occupational therapy. You're hearing about speech therapy. Remember, we are not doctors. In biology classes, we only learn the basics. So you're getting into this space where you're being forced to take in so much, and then you have to also adjust. And when you go out into the world, when you decide, okay, let me do this, let me take my child to school, what greets you on that side? More rejection, more terms and conditions, more you have to add this, you have to add that. When you go to hospital therapy, you have to do 3 sessions. You have to make a choice as a parent. If you're employed, is your employer understanding enough to give you those 3 days every week? How easy is it to find a school that your child will fit in? Remember, all our children are different. You have to relocate your life. Everything has to change. The nutritionist will tell you, you need to adjust the diet. Do you do it alone? Is it the entire family? How do you cater for all these extra costs? For the parents whose children have comorbid conditions, meaning a coexisting condition, you'll find majority of the neurodiverse have epilepsy, you have OCD, ADHD, ADD, all this at once. And remember, you're still processing, right? So you're looking for a school, and everywhere you go, I remember the first time I took my child, and I was told, we can handle it. And he was in school, term 1, term 2. And I'm just wondering, why are things not changing? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't take away from us. We have expectations. We as parents are hopeful that something will change. We are hoping we are doing the best we can by providing according to our providence. You take them where you think you can afford. I remember when my second child also had to go to school. I had already been told that my third child had been told he also has signs of autism. And that was the longest denial. It took me 9 years to accept, because I had 3 diagnoses, but there was no way I was going to take it. It felt that God was unfair. It felt that being alone, having been through a divorce, having tried to start my life again, and that certification that even this child has autism. I forced him into a regular school, and my child hated school after a while. Why? Because I was trying to make him normal. I wanted a child who is normal. And that's a pain that no one can ever take away from you. Because unless a parent who understands, unless someone who's walked that journey, who knows the pains and the wishes, because when you give birth, let's say in the same age group with other parents, when you're seeing their children hitting their milestones, you're asking yourself, why isn't my child getting there? What am I not doing? You're going back to self-blame. You're going back to trying to find, what do I change? That time you've done the best you can. I remember when I was told he is, and I'm like, more therapy, more speech, more all of this, and I'm like, I'm alone. Is it food? Is it medication? What do I prioritize? And that is what we walk through every day. It took one day during sports to watch him in the line, you know, when they line up, and I'm like, this guy is tall, my God. That's when I realized he's with toddlers, yet he's 9 years, and that was my wake-up call. I remember crying that day, and I'm like, I have to make a move. And the hard thing is finding a school. Do you put them together? Do you put him separately? Do you want him to become his own individual, or do you want them to just be in the comfort of other children like him? Then the other thing we fear is aping. If I put him in a special school, will he start picking up behaviors of other children? Because our autistic kids, what they see, they do a lot, and they pick it up. So those are some of the fears that we never get to say, but that is what is going on through our minds every day as you go to bed, trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? Sadly, there is no manual. There is no manual anywhere that we are given and told, this is the best way, because once you meet one autistic child, you've met only one. It is a spectrum, and that means that every individual will only have similar character traits, but they're never the same. Yeah? But sometimes we just have to do what it is we can, what we believe we can. So when we are stepping out there and we're requesting for people to just hear us, understand us, I believe it's not much to ask, is it? Is it much to ask? When we are saying, involve us. Remember, I am the one who stays with this child most. Everything they go through, all their needs, I'm the one who's trying to figure out. When I was doing my research, I remember I went to the UK and I took my nephew, who has Down syndrome, to school. And I got culture shock. Because I compare the school that I take my child to and what I am seeing, and I'm like, where are we going wrong in Africa? What is it? Aren't we paying taxes? Aren't we paying taxes? Equally, parents, don't you pay your taxes, special needs or not, right? So why are we not getting equal service? Why are we not having equity? Why is my child not being put in the space where he needs? Why is my child, as they get free textbooks, why can I not get free therapy in school? Why can I not get that electronic device if my child is a visual learner, if they're a tactile learner, if we need the compound to be in a specific way? Why do we always have to be fighting? I believe that's the question that we are always asking ourselves. Why is it always a fight? Don't our children count? Are they not part of this community? We are always celebrating, oh my God, that person with disability made it. Do you know why they made it? Because there's a parent somewhere who believed in their child. There's a parent who did not give up. There is that parent who sacrificed everything they had to make sure they could give the best for their child. I remember days when I used to eat one meal a day. I used to walk or leave the office at 10 p.m. because that time you're sacrificing time with the child, or do I make money to support the same child? So I would take water in the morning so that they can eat breakfast and go to school. Go to work at around 10 because the fare was cheaper. It was like 20 bob at that time, right? Stay in the office until 10 p.m. so that the fare is back to 10 bob. Because I left the house with 50 shillings and I cannot afford. All right? So you go back home, at least they've eaten, they have everything, you eat. You wake them up at that time because you still want to just spend some time with your child. But you have to make the sacrifices for them to be able to go to school, for them to have medication. One of the greatest heartbreaks I will never forget is going to a hospital and telling the doctor, I cannot afford this medicine. Know what the doctor asked me? Then what are you doing here? You know? And I remember crying my heart out. And this is the one person you expect to understand you. All we want is just to be understood. For someone to just see the whole 360 of all the things that you're doing and how you're trying to make it happen. But that's not a guarantee, sadly. Because you will go there, but they have their expectations. They are working. They have 10 patients to see. Then I'm telling you need to buy medicine. You're telling me you can't afford it. And trust you me, within 24 hours, we were in HDU. The sad reality is the same doctor refused to see my child. How many neurologists do we have in the country? Dr. Jane? 23. To serve, yes, neurologists, pediatric neurologists. If you are to look at the population, it is sad that we don't have statistics until this date to be able to know exactly how we are performing. But I will tell you, there is days I would go to a doctor's office in the morning just to book a number, come back at 2 p.m. because my appointment is 2 p.m. and leave at 7 p.m. Even 9 p.m. I've seen parents who've left at 1 a.m. because maybe that's how much you can afford. That's the only doctor you feel comfortable with. And remember, our children also rule our lives, right? Because you can take them somewhere, and if they don't settle in, they don't feel their vibe, woe unto you, back to square one. You go to a therapist, and they just don't gel. Or the therapist and the child just can't get them to settle. And that is the story of our lives every day. As you're just trying your best to make sure you give them the best. But what does the community do? Aren't we embraced with open arms, right? Yeah? Your child goes out to play, and what are you told? I remember I was away, and then my nanny calls me and says, Mama so-and-so came to my house saying that we're making noise, that the boys should be locked in the house because they're making noise. Who are you to judge how a child plays? Who are you to tell me to learn how to make my child keep quiet? Do you think for me as a parent, I also enjoy when they're going through the steaming? When they're suffering, when they cannot communicate, when they're frustrated, when they get violent and break things in the house? Is it because I enjoy it? Is it because I just, you know what? Because the first thing we get branded is we are bad parents. You go outside, you want your child to just have play. We are told play is important. They need to learn how to socialize. They need to learn turn-taking. How will they turn-take on their own? It is said that 1 out of 20 children has a disability. That is the statistics. We need to change our view because we are always forcing that child to be like everyone else, while that one child is giving 19 people an opportunity to understand integration, equity, inclusion. So for us as a community, I miss the days when we grew up, when Ubuntu actually existed, when the child belonged to who? Akifanya makosa, the neighbor will beat them up and bring them to you. Dare you touch my child? Isn't that what we live with these days, right? Dare you touch my child? Because all it starts with is at home. Charity begins at home. For you, as a regular parent, I'm using the word regular because that's what we have been branded, regular and typical. I don't know where the baseline is set for us to know what's normal and abnormal. But for our children, if you teach your child that we are all different, if you teach your child that if you find a child who's a bit different, try and understand, try and embrace them, try and make them comfortable. Because remember, most disabilities is because of the environment. It is what heightens the gaps. if we were inclusive, there is a photo that I saw of a child walking into a school back in the States. And there is stairs and there is a ramp. And the cleaner, there was a heap of snow. And the cleaner was removing, this child was on a wheelchair. The cleaner was starting with the steps. So the boy asked, why would you just not clear the ramp? He said, can't you see you're one? How many other people are waiting? But what that man did not realize, you clear that ramp, everyone can use that ramp, right? Everyone else will be able to access. You will be reducing the traffic of people waiting by clearing that ramp. And that's how inclusion is. We are always saying, okay, let's wait. Or once, everything we are fighting. Jane, aren't we always fighting in rooms? Policies have been put, but we have to stand there and say, umetusahau. Why? Why can't we equip our leaders so that whenever they are making policies, we have a representative in the room? Someone who will guide them in the right way. We don't have to always spend money going again to start the process, going again to look for where did we miss, what did we miss, doing it right the first time. That is what I would ask. For us, we always try to be there. And I will tell you, most of the institutions that are there that are trying to make a difference are parent-led institutions, right? Because if you don't know how it feels, you will not understand. And we're the ones who go through all of this. And we try our best. I remember being told that, these organizations will come and go. We are always being expected to fail as parents. Yes, we struggle. We're trying to balance the act. I'm trying to do something for the next parent so that they don't have to go through what I went through. I'm trying to make it easier for the next child who gets a diagnosis. I'm sacrificing my life to clear the path for the next child. But is the community going to be accommodative enough to allow us to be able to thrive and make this happen? So I'm crossing my finger. I just want us to take a moment and get to understand what goes on in the mind of a neurodiverse child, right? If you are them, and this is our environment, how do we see things, and how do they see things? I hope there is sound.
We are all different, and that's wonderful.
Can we hear?
Height, hairstyle, eye color, and so on. Our favorite foods, ear, or special skill. Interestingly, the way we see the world is also different. For instance, what do you see in this drawing? Most people see a duck, but some of you might have seen a rabbit. Whichever you saw, you are correct. This is just a trick drawing to show you that all brains work differently. The brain is your body's computer. It works differently for all of us and controls how you learn. That's why we are all good at different things. How you feel, which is why we all feel different emotions, and how you communicate. Sometimes the brain is connected in such a way it affects the senses and how we perceive and read situations and interactions. This is known as autism. Many people have autism, so it's likely you already know someone who is autistic. And for this reason, it's useful to know a little bit about autism. The special wiring inside an autistic brain can sometimes make the person good at tasks we may find difficult, such as mathematics, drawing, or music. It can also do the opposite, and activities we find too easy are incredibly difficult to them, such as making friends. The senses constantly send information to your brain about your surroundings and other people. However, when a person's brain and its senses don't communicate well, the brain can become overwhelmed and confused, affecting how they see the world. Picture yourself walking down the street. This is how an autistic brain may experience the same warmth. Scary, isn't it? Sadly, in many cases, the person can't say out loud how they feel. So even though there's chaos going on in their heads, they seem okay on the outside, unable to ask for help. We all develop behaviors to help us feel calm in uncomfortable situations. We may look away, hug ourselves, chew our fingernails, fidget, bite our lips, and so on. Equally, autistic people develop behaviors that help them cope with these intense moments. These actions may seem unusual, but they're just their way to feel calm. When they happen, it means they are having a hard time. The kind thing to do is not to give them an even harder time by getting cross, ignoring them, or mocking. Remember, just because a place they might just be able to share their feelings with us. Autism can make amazing things happen.
Who has learned something new today? I can't see, they're all short, like up and proud. Good. So I trust the next time you see a child or an adult even going through a hard time, what have we said? Understand, accommodate, make the environment easier for them. I was having a conversation with a 42-year-old yesterday who called me, they were sent to me. And he told me, I have suffered all my life, but I just got my diagnosis. He has multiple neurodevelopmental challenges, dyslexia, dyscalculia, ADHD, all combined. And he said even his own parents had no idea what was going on. In school, at work, he was labeled. He tried getting married, he just had a divorce. That is where early intervention comes in, and awareness. So for us, it's about we light a candle. We educate you, you educate the next person. Because you never know your neighbor. There is that child who you're always saying the way they are just ill-mannered. Take the time. Talk to that parent. Find out if they are aware what is going on. Don't be the first one to judge, but be the first one to intervene and support. Our education section also, because interaction with a special needs child can come in different places. First, we have our nurses, who are the ones who are taking care of our children. That's the point we expect at least support. Guide me, tell me, we've noted this, we need to pay more attention to your child. When they start school, the teacher notices a child struggling, but what's the first thing? They're put aside as they focus on the others. You're slow, you're not getting anything. That's the branding that affects a child's life for the rest of their life. You're limiting them. Yet we're talking about unlimited opportunities. And we want to also talk about equity. It's not about having a level play field. It's about meeting me at my point of need, meeting me with what it is that I require to make sure that I am the best and I meet my best potential. So for us, as we're trying to also recognize the fact that we have the challenges, let us also recognize that there is something we can do about it. But who's going to take the first step? Who always has to take the first step? The parent. So that means everything squarely lands on your shoulder as a parent. We have to identify, and for a parent, there is all these extra emotions that you're always thinking you're afraid because you have been surrounded by the same thing over and over again. Rejection, dejection, blame. Every service, everywhere you go, everywhere you turn, the story is the same. It's always the same. And that's what we're looking forward to changing. All we are asking is for the rest of the world to understand and make accommodations. For us, we have our expectations. I will not lie. I'm always the first one to tell people and parents, like, we can do this, we can go get there. But there are those days, like I said, when you sit with your child, with other children. I'm seeing 12-year-olds playing games, being able to do things that I still feel like a dream that will come one day. Sometimes you give up. I remember I approached a teacher and I told them, why are we wasting? How much money have I paid in the past 7 years in school? We still cannot write. We still are not holding. Not that I've not gone for therapy, but it is what it is. It is painful. So when we are giving up, all we're doing is crying out for help. Like, just step in and ask me, we can do this. Just step in and tell me it's not the end of the world. Not that I don't know, but I am human. There are those days you just want to hear it from outside because you get tired of telling yourself and things just don't seem like they're changing. It just doesn't seem like it's changing. So if we change the system, we start with our education system, the healthcare, social protection. Those are the gaps that we're having. If all those things are aligned with our children at the end, at every corner of every decision that's being made, because in our country, trust you me, we are said to have the best disability rights, right? The best policies everyone comes to borrow. Where are we lacking? Thank you. So why do it if you're just doing it for the paper? How many people have been given 12-hour notice to attend a public participation? Thank you. 2 hours. I was even being optimistic. And you're supposed to go and stage, get ready and do all of these things. And still be a parent, do everything, go to work, you know? How many superwomen do we have in the room? I want to see the parents. Our mothers. Oh, yeah, yes. So tell them, just stand to them and tell them you're a superwoman. Because indeed, the things that we have to do, it only takes superpowers, right? Because how many of us have been told you are strong? How many times have you heard that word? I cannot do the things you're able to do. Who told you I had an option? Can someone give me an option? Trust you me, I will run. If not for the love and affection I have for my children, give me an option. And as a human being, I will run. I wish I could run like my ex-husband did. But I don't have that option, right? It squarely remains on your shoulder as a parent. And worse still, as a mother. So you're carrying your child, you're carrying the government, you're carrying the community, you're carrying your family, and your own insecurities. Sometimes you walk around looking ragged and people wonder what's wrong with her. What time will I be a doctor, therapist, nutritionist, manage everyone's calendar, my own? Because our children love routine. Change one thing and your whole world is upside down. And I'm sure COVID taught everyone that. And I'm so glad for COVID because everyone had a taste of our own. Not to be mean, but everyone felt what my child feels. You can't move. You can't go out. You can't just hold anyone because you don't know how you will be judged. How many youths have been arrested just because they were going through their own steaming, they can't talk, and they were branded they're the thief? How many of our youths have gone through that? You come as a parent, you're told your child is in a police station. Our kids, there's something called escapism. They just go. So when you see me with my 12-year-old, nimembeba kama kikapu hapa handbag, and you're like, can you let go of that child? You have no idea what I'm trying to save myself for. We always, in our support groups here, oh, my child is missing. Trust you me, you cannot sleep, even if it's for 2 minutes. Because anything can happen. That child cannot talk. They cannot even answer, what's your name? They speak differently. You know, in my household, the funny thing is if I ask Andrew, what's your name, he'll tell me Bradley. If I ask Bradley, at least he knows. But you know, they know, it's what they hear. When someone says, what's your name, you know, I will always step in and say, that's Andrew, that's so and so. So they pick from how, they speak different, as in their space is different. But do you ever, as the person next door, take time to understand how they see things, understand their own language? And you know, sometimes one of our parents, Mercy, I always used to say, oh, my child disappeared. But the good thing is, she made T-shirts with their names and the phone numbers at the back. You know? And at least the entire community knows their children. But how many of us have that energy? when you don't have a support system. How many of us can afford to go that extra mile to customize things so that our children are safer? All we are asking is for you, my neighbor, my family, just be a bit more understanding. Just be there for me. Sometimes I just want a phone call to be told, Mutena, let's have a glass of wine. You know? You know? Like, just come, let's talk. Because our kids are too weird to be invited to birthday parties, to be invited to play. Maybe all he knows is how to hold the ball and not pass it on. But that's an opportunity for my child, for your child to teach my child how it's supposed to be. But when you tell your child not to go near them, is disability contagious? Are we that naive? Because that is exactly what we face
every day. Rejection.
Communication is one of the very things that if we were to all tell our stories, I think we will need a box of tissue in front of everyone. You know? Because I remember the first time I took Andrew for this new school. I'm so excited. He's finally potty trained. But at the end of the term, do you know what I was told? Your child cannot continue. Why? And when the report form came, it was can't. Have you ever felt like someone is stabbing you 20,000 times over? And that's why I thank God for CBC. As everyone else is complaining. You know? Because it opens opportunity for my child to discover themselves and other potentials they have. They're able to discover, I can be an artist, I can make this, I can sing. But when you use a yardstick, they always say, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, because that's what our children go through. You're expecting them to do a specific thing which maybe their mental capacity cannot. So when you're seeing all those can't, we are now happy to say, oh yeah, you can improve with better, you know. That is music to our ears. Because for us, that smallest thing, for me, he had been able to go to the toilet on his own. That was a great milestone. But what does everyone else see? They cannot read. They cannot hold a pen. They cannot color within the circle. They cannot match dots. They cannot combine. Trust you me, I cried a bucket of tears. But then that cycle becomes a bit too much. So sometimes for our teachers, when you spot that difference, how you also tell a parent. Last week when I was speaking, I remember some of the head teachers came and asked me, I have spotted this, how do I communicate? How do I tell this parent before they bite my head? Remember, at the end of the day, we are all human, right? I might not want to hear it, but you'll have done me a favor by letting me know. Remember, the environment, if a child is at home, a child is in school, they operate differently, and we need that synergy. When you talk to me and say, I have noticed this, how do we make his life easier? Versus telling me, oh, your child cannot. Which one is better? Pardon? Yes. So positivity. Let's have a bit of positivity. And we also need synergy in our system, in our policies. We want the Ministry of Education to work with the Ministry of Health, to work with social protection, to have our institutions all work together, because we all start our small schools. But will our children be small forever? So where are the secondary schools? When I asked for a list, I got a list of 47 special needs schools. How many ECD centers are there? So where is the transition? We have TVET centers. How many actually take in special needs and children with learners with disability? Yet we are saying we are the best. We have catered for everyone. So what's your definition of everyone? So this is what we go through for our children. We try to shield them from all these things. Self-doubt, ignorance, anxiety, discrimination, disrespect. I will tell you, some of our kids are so pure at heart, they don't even feel some of these things. I remember watching my son jumping into a trampoline excited. He just wants to be part of the action. He walks in, and what happens? They all walked out. Yet he does not even have the coordination to jump. So he was depending on their jumping to throw him up and down in the trampoline. But see, innocence. This young girl walks up to me and asks me, what's wrong with your child? That's the time you say Hail Mary, a very short version, to God help you. Because sometimes the pain is just beyond. My child didn't even notice it, but I was dying. I was practically dead on the inside. But you see, it was an opportunity for me to empower this child to be embracing my child. Because she did not understand why he could not stand up. She could not understand why he was big. Because you know our children are big, yeah? It doesn't change the fact. And he was drooling. So you know, these are things, it's their muscles. They're not fine enough. They cannot control some of these things. Lucky enough, at least he can take himself to the toilet. So you can imagine if he was in a diaper, what other question would I have gotten? But that's the story of our lives, my friends. And we have to live in it. So for us as parents, remember, we are like a walking CPU. You see the way you have information overload? Because I have to have, how many times, Christine, have you been asked to repeat how you gave birth? You're going to the same hospital, like they don't have records, but I have to re-narrate and relieve the pain of how my childbirth was. I have 2 kids. I don't remember how their convulsions interlude. I'm forced to be recording and keeping a tab. And remember, convulsions are not easy. They're things we just never get used to. No matter how old your child gets, there are pains that just don't change. Not when he was 3 weeks old when he first had, not when he's 10, not when he's 12. The pain is still the same. So for you as a parent, and when you're engaging, just, don't make it extra hard. Just try and understand how we are carrying all these pains, because we have to handle all this. You can see that list, all the therapists, all the specialists you have to see. In the school, you have the shadow teacher, you have the actual teacher, you have, I know every time, can we go for swimming? Everything has to be checked back. Because you see, for us, when we see phone calls from school, for you, you'll be waiting to be told results. I don't know, you did not buy what. For me, it is a moment of, where is my handbag? Because you have no idea what has happened. It can either be, we are on the way to hospital, meet us. He has fallen. I remember I was told, he has fallen. You're not even anywhere close. He has fallen, we need to know what to do. And I'm like, then there is a day there was an ambulance that did not even have oxygen. I'm like, are we serious? Like, seriously? I got there before the ambulance that the school had called. And that is our systems. And for every time for our children when they're going through convulsions, their brain cells are dying. You're causing an opportunity for them to lose all the gains they have had. It is a chance where they can sleep. You can actually die. Most people don't know. But we have had cases, children getting convulsions and actually passing on. Do we even have those statistics? Do we know how many children died during COVID due to lack of medication? Do we have an idea? In our parents' groups, I can tell you for free, in a week, we always had a burial. And that is the ones I know, the ones I'm in. But who reported it? Nobody. So we always face experts, but for us as parents, you have to always remember it is you. It is you, and it's squarely on you to be the voice for that child. But at the end of the day, do not forget yourself. If you're not okay, your child will not be okay. So take time for you as a neighbor. Call me out. Tell me, for today, go take a walk. I will spend 5 minutes. Try and walk in my shoe. I know most will last 5 minutes, but at least it will be 5 minutes. How many sleepless nights do we have? Jane. Thank you very much. I remember I'm blessed, at least I got lucky enough to get remarried, and I'm glad that my husband is in the room. And I know one of the last week I was asleep. I just jumped out of bed and ran out. He had no idea what was going on. But we sleep, but we don't sleep, eh? We are there, but we are not there. Me, I had something that no one else would hear. We have when we say we are super women, I tell you, you see the ears that you see for Superman. When they're saying he can hear, me, I had someone stamp like, boom. Do you know what trigger that is? Someone is having a convulsion, has fallen. Someone has tripped, we are breaking something somewhere. And I'm just thinking, my God, the cast is not yet out. But that is the story of our lives. You sleep, but you do not sleep. But parents, always remember to take care of yourself. So the level of stress we can actually handle, I don't even know. But maybe that's why people say we are strong. But we are women of strength because that's the only option that we have, right? And for all the children who have actually made a difference and we can see thrive, it's because there's a parent somewhere who did not give up. And I'd like to call upon all the parents in the room, even when it gets extra tough, even when you feel like there is nowhere else to turn. Because sometimes we turn amongst ourselves. KISE, unipatie sotano Jen. You're telling me the way you only have milk for tonight. Who do I turn to? You've borrowed a bit too much. There are times you don't even know what people are saying about you, but you did not bring it upon yourself. If only my child could be somewhere and I could work. It's not that I cannot work. It's just that there is someone who depends on me 24/7. Right? Then let's talk about severe disabilities, and you're not part of that severity, you know? Mutena, I feel your pain. And actually, I would like to applaud my fellow parents who have more than one child in the room. Please stand up, and I would like for us to applaud them. It is not an easy journey. It is one that we have no idea how we wake up to do it, but we wake up and keep moving, right? Yes, you might have your sets. It is not easy for them to be here. I must say, I am very proud. Jackie, there is you set up an event. What's your turnout? Four people to 100. That time you've given your all. Not that you're not a parent or you don't want to do. So sometimes we go back and you're like, God, why am I doing this? And only saving grace you have is God's grace. Because that's the only explanation that we can give sometimes to the amount of strength we are able to display, the amount of strength that we are able to live through, because it's just cannot be explained. So we are hoping. The other thing I'd like to encourage our parents, also let's educate ourselves. Let's be aware of the opportunities that are there. Because the sad reality is some of these things are there. We all said policies are there, but implementation is a question. All the funds that are kept for persons with disabilities, we don't show up as parents to claim it sometimes. Sometimes we don't even know they exist, right? And it is exactly. You remember that pile of paperwork we saw? When you go to claim, you're asked for so many things. Thank you. I am glad parents are here. You know, we all walk different journeys in different ways and different experiences. So you will walk in and you're told that money is not for you, it's for your child. Let me ask you, a child with cerebral palsy, they're confined on a wheelchair. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot go to the toilet. That means they're 100% dependent on the parent. Yes, we have the benefits. Yes, we have the disability card. But for me as a parent of a neurodiverse child who's fully dependent on me, they might never get to enjoy that. My child will, if we have not sorted education system, my child will not get to university. So when you're telling me there is a GPA of 5%, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to me? When you tell me there is tax exemption, what does that mean to me as a parent? I cannot claim it on behalf of my child. I went into KISE and there is a mother who came and she had carried her child who was 18. Bado yuko mgongoni. She's telling me she now needs the therapy. Her back is done. She cannot afford a wheelchair. So how inclusive are we? How supportive are we of special needs parents? Because they're the ones taking the whole blunt of everything. We are very good at policies, like we say, but let's move forward and look towards equity. Let's look at solutions that will actually benefit the person who needs it the most, the person who is supporting that child, the person who is required to ensure that that child goes through life and becomes the best person that they could be. And in closing, my fellow parents, as we embrace our children, accept them and plan. I know there is one thing that we're always afraid of when you're wondering, when I die, where do I go from here? And sometimes when people ask me why I do what I do, that is the constant reminder. Changing this space now so that when I'm not here, my child will be able to get something out of it. It's not for ourselves. It's just we're trying to make this place a better place so that when I'm no longer alive, my child will be there. And to my fellow parents, parenting is about accepting our children for who they are and not what we expected them to be. And if we embrace that and just try to be the best and do the best we can, trust you me, we have a brighter future coming. Thank you.